Hello, everybody. I want to give hello, everybody. I want to give a very warm welcome to this exciting event. We are about 150 participants from Europe, Latin America, and the United States. And this meeting is the public presentation of the local and regional time agenda, which is a pioneering compilation of time policies. And the specific issue is on life balance. My name is Karin Jurczyk, and I will be the facilitator of this event. And I'm vice president of the German Society of Time Policy. And this society is a network of researchers and practitioners from different institutions, and we try to give time a voice and seek to make time a matter of public debate and a constituent part of political decision-making. I think this is a reason why I am allowed to be the facilitator of this event. And now I give way to Laura Perez, who is the Counselor of Social Rights, Global Justice and Feminism from Barcelona City Council. Laura.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
I want to add one thing which I've forgotten. It is good to know that you can write down your questions during the whole event in the chat. Everybody of you can do that, and we will pick that up. So sorry, Laura.
Thank you, Karin. Now we have all the information and we know how it's going to work. Estava saludant, si em permeten parlaré en català, faré lentament per facilitar.
Speaking Catalan, I will speak slowly to make the life of interpreters easier, but I would like to thank the people and teams that have been organizing this event. Thanks for your hard work, for keeping us in touch, and all the participants that pursue the same goals. And firstly, I want to show the commitment of the city of Barcelona. In April the 5th, we were honored to present Barcelona as the World Capital of Time Policies. It's a recognition by the UCLG on time policies, which is an opportunity to us, an opportunity to convey this to other cities and also to convey to the citizenship, specifically the Barcelona citizenship, how important our time organization and management is to lead a more healthy, egalitarian, efficient and sustainable life. As the Declaration of Barcelona on Time Policies establishes, that was signed by over 100 international organizations, experts in time policies in December 2021, time is a political matter and it can be conceived as a right. And we should work for everyone to be entitled to that right. So far, everyone believed that our days were basically going to work and resting, what we called leisure time or time for yourself. But in this very dual approach, care work has fallen into oblivion. And when we incorporate care work in this work-time balance, we see an imbalance. And as it happens with other fundamental rights, well, there is an inegalitarian distribution of time in that sense. So let me point out the gender inequality and economic inequalities, but I think it's very important to start tackling how women are disproportionately affected by time poverty. So there is a gender gap in time uses, and women have less time available for themselves, which means that this has an impact on other activities that we might be able to carry out, but also impacts on our mental and physical health. If we think about working time, we realize that there's an imbalance there too, a persisting one in the setup of the labor markets. Inequalities mean that women have to take care of the care work, and it means that we work part-time much more, and this has a direct impact on our wages. But not only that, as I said before, it has an impact on our leisure time, our rest. Women have less time to do sport. Today, precisely in Barcelona, we presented a government policy for sports and gender, and we realized that women stop doing sport at a certain age, and intensive care work has an impact on this personal sacrifice and on the personal well-being, because we do that instead of thinking of our well-being and health. So in the framework of these capital city activities, the Barcelona Town Council reinforces its commitment to promote innovative time policies to strike a balance in our lives. And when we talk about the right to time as a citizen's right, we need to talk about more autonomy for everyone to decide how to use our time. We have to bring time poverty to an end on the grounds of race, age, or ethnic group. And this is a collective matter. And the civil society, the companies, the social players, we all have to work together to pave the way with other cities to guarantee that right with other initiatives, as we will be doing here today by learning from others. I want to thank all the organizations that will be presenting best practices today. Thanks for taking part in this seminar, but thanks for being inspirational to us too, for encouraging us to keep working to improve the rights of our citizens through time policies in our cities. As the Barcelona City Council and as the World Capital on Time Policies, we would like to invite you to be part of the network on time policies that are for the future, but that are being thought out today in the present to promote healthier, more egalitarian, efficient and sustainable cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. I have to mention that I got the information that you have to leave about 3 p.m. Is that right? Which is a pity, but thank you very much. And now I will give floor to Marta Jonke. She is the co-coordinator of the Barcelona Time Use Initiative, acting as the Secretariat for the Local and Regional Government Time Network, which is a very long title. The floor is yours, Marta.
Thank you, Karin, and thank you, colleagues. We will try to explain today what is this long title for the network and why we are using this title to describe it. First of all, thank you to all the speakers today. It's an honor to have a session with all of you and to learn from all of you. And as well, thank you to the participants that are joining today from different parts of the world. It's very interesting not to see just people from Europe, that is where usually we were talking about time policies, but as well people from different institutions from Latin America and America. Thank you very much for joining us. The goals of the event of today are basically 3 when we were thinking that with the board of this network. First of all, as Laura was referring, to exchange, to learn, to exchange good practices, to learn from one and to another. The second is to illustrate how the time policies can be a useful tool to overcome the current challenges that we have as a society. And the third, and also very important, is because we would like to include more institutions, more governments to the network. So as Laura was already saying, we are opening our network for new contacts to join. Today, I would like to start talking on why time policies are relevant and why the right to time is the right that we will need to be fighting in the 21st century. For those that are new with the terminology time policies, I'm going to explain first what they are. No? Time policies are those policies that can be done by public or private stakeholders and are thought to put the time on the center of the policies. So always to estimate how this policy is going to impact on the use of time of the society. And when we analyze that, how is this impact, we usually analyze 4 categories. The first is health, the second is equality, the third one is efficiency, and the fourth, and very important as well, is sustainability. Time policies is not something that has been created in the last years. They existed in Europe from the 90s. Especially they were implemented in some cities and towns from Italy and France. And it was in 2008 when different cities around Europe decided to join and to create the European Cities Network for Time Policies. This is the origin of the current network that we have at the moment. In 2021, the network agreed that there was an opportunity to relaunch this network and especially to promote the right to time and the time policies beyond Europe. And that's why we changed the name of the network. And now, as Karin was saying, we call it Local and Regional Governments Time Network. So we want to include not just local governments, but as well metropolitan areas and regional governments, because the local level, the level closer to the citizens are those that are doing more active policies, more active time policies to improve the use of time. The situation at the moment, marked by the recovery plans to overcome the social and economic consequences of the pandemic, the climate emergency, the strength of the feminist agenda, and the consequences of the digitalization, make that currently the time policies are an opportunity to contribute to create a better work-life balance with a more healthy, egalitarian, and more efficient society. It is important to understand that, as Laura Perez was referring before, the data currently show that there is a great imbalance between the time use of the different people in the society, especially generating time poverty for women and people with less resources. That's why we want to talk about the right to time and to put the right to time into the center of the political agenda, because it's moment that the redistribution of time is better balanced among the society. Today, to finalize my speech, I would like to share you a couple of things. The first one is the website where you will be able to find all the information about the local and regional governments time network. This is a website that is called timeusepolicies.info, and here you will be able to find information on which are the goals of the network, and as well which are the key characteristics, which are the members that currently are part of the network, and the different elements and projects that we are doing, as Laura was explaining, the capital of time policies or the agenda of today. If you want to join to the network, you can start your application by joining to the network. The second practical thing that I would like to show to you is where we can find the publication that today is going to be presented. If you go in the same website, you go to publications, and there you will be able to download the first compilation of the local and regional time agenda. We call it agenda because it's not just a recopilation of policies, it's setting the agenda of the present and of the future of time policies. In this presentation, you will find 2 introductory chapters to explore the current context on how time is distributed among population and how does impact in the work-life balance. And this here you will find the introduction by Maria Luz Vega from International Labour Organization and Sana Nikolowski from Eurofund. Following that, you will find 35 best practices on local and regional time policies related to this topic. They will be divided into parts. These time policies that are meant to improve the life of the citizens and the time policies that are meant to improve the life of the public employees, the staff working in the public organizations. And last but not least, here you will also find 10 recommendations on how to implement these policies in your different institutions that you are part of. This is a publication that you will find always available to download here in the webpage that I was sharing. And without any further explanation, I would like to thank everybody for joining to the event and looking forward to work together with you in the future. Thank you, Karin.
Thank you, Marta. And I will give the floor now to Maria Luz Vega Ruiz. And she's Senior Advisor Research. She's from the Senior Advisor Research Department in International Labour Organization. I hope very much that my own internet connection works well. I'm not that sure, but I will do my best. So, Maria, it's your turn.
Sure, with pleasure. Good afternoon and good morning, depends on the part of the world. And thank you, first of all, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. Muchas gracias. And really to share with you some very quick ideas on what is the practices and the policy of the ILO. And this is the right moment. And I would say it's the right moment because not more than 3 days ago, there have been a big endorsement by the International Labour Conference, including health as one of our fundamentals right at work, as including other that we know. Then now health will be an axe for any discussion, for any improvement, and will be one of the concentration or one of the main focus of the International Labour Organization and the different governments to I would say, orient our policies and our work in this particular area. As you know, health is extremely really close related to time with work, life balance. Then I think it's all in the right moment, in the good moment, and we need to speed up our studies on time work and working time and all these policies because it's extremely important. As you do know, our day, our life is really divided in three parts, if we can say like this. Some part that is dedicated, in most of the cases, the one that in the labor market to the paid work. Another one that is dedicated to care activities, our self-care activities, and another one dedicated to personal time. In any case, these three categories are deeply interlinked, and more than ever, I think the pandemic has shown how all this is related and how all these three categories can be even confused. The International Labour Organization has developed a long time ago, around 20 years ago, the concept that is now universally known is decent work, that involves promoting opportunities for women and men to obtain decent and productive work in conditions of freedom, equity, security, and human dignity in order to decrease difference and to improve social justice. In this sense, we can say that the ILO is looking for decent work, and this includes to respect the dignity, including applying policies on working time. As you know, or probably you have heard about, working time has been a subject of the first convention, the first labor standard that was produced by the ILO in 1990. Then working time is transversal, is part of our mandate, is part of our idea. And I will say that in the last 20 years, working time has been crossing over the different works declaration and different standards that we have been producing in the International Convention. As I have mentioned just now, you have seen even now in this conference, and it's not still finished, still 2 days more, all this is clear. We cannot forget that the regulation of working time is one of the oldest concerns. Already in the 19th century was the idea of workers' health, was inspired the creation and the first movement in relation to labor law. And today is an element of our normal idea of decent work. New economy trends during recent decades has resulted in working hours that are increasing, and not only increasingly in a diverse way, but also in a decentralized and in a way that is individualized. They are also a greatest, or the greater in general, I would not say the greatest, but at least a greater tensions between workers and the preference of the enterprises. And we need to look for some equilibrium, some balance on all these kind of things. But we cannot forget that we are now in this moment and we are thinking on the famous 24 hours economy, the expansion of working time in smaller segments, all these different arrangements that are complicated, and we are not very sure how will be the impact on the different areas of our life. What is important is to know also that when we talk, when we see what is happening around working time in all around the world, there are an increase in long hours working. And this is a fact. And this is a fact that even if we have no data, we know that is one of the worries and the concern of most of the countries. Sometimes in the normal regulation of the day, of the working day, but also in the increasing number of overwork and long hours working, in many cases not paid. These new realities have raised, as I mentioned, several concerns, and has also increased the inequalities, particularly in relation to gender, as was mentioned by the Barcelona Laura, I think the counselor before, the ability to balance their paid work and the personal life, and problems related to family and civic responsibilities. ILO has some instruments, Convention 156, that is related to some of this concern. It's called Workers with Family Responsibility. It's an already 20 years old or 25 years old convention. Then really, we are aware of these difficulties. There are, however, new elements that we need to consider that, as I mentioned before, has been exacerbated by the pandemic. ILO and the ILO and the World Health Organization consider that long working hours led to more than around, I would say, close to 1 million deaths from stroke and ischemic heart diseases, and 29% increase since 20,000 from the beginning, only 22 years ago. But this situation, I would say, has changed after the pandemic in a different way. New work organization methods, of course, they are not only bringing complicated and bad panoramas, but also a lot of opportunities and new ideas. And we need to see in which way we can regulate and we can produce a kind of new policy that is looking for this new way of seeing our working time and our way of dealing with this. We need to have, I will say, a new order that allows us to move forward. On different studies, ILO has concluded that balanced working time arrangement can benefit firms in many ways, and this is important. First, because they can increase productivity. Also because they reduce rates of absenteeism and staff, of course, turnover. Also improve employees' attitude, and in particular moral, and produce more sustainable and green enterprises. And this is beneficial. We need to see that whatever happens at work will have also a reflect in society. And this is very important. Work-life balance implies not only an improvement on working conditions, but a citizen's improvement in all conditions. We need to say that advancing on these different dimensions require a broad range of policies. And I think all these national and local examples will help us in guiding on how to see which kind of precise mix of policies we need to put in practice in different countries or in different cities or local. We need to keep in mind that decent working time holds the promise of helping workers to achieve a better work-life balance, while simultaneously advancing the competitiveness of the enterprises. However, a proactive approach is required, and employers and workers must actively seek an appropriate mix of policies and practice through social dialogue, and this is very important, but they need to be inspired by previous and by other kind of example. Then we need to have this supportive framework of time policies at the local, regional, national, and of course, international level. This is the only way that we can promise this decent work and realize this decent work time, but also the only way that we can really engage in this policy that can cover social justice and dignity for all. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Maria. It was highly interesting. And the last speaker in this introduction section now is Sana Nivakoski, and she is research officer at Eurofund. Sana.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen and show a couple of slides. As I will be sharing some statistics as well with you. Now, here we go. So thank you again very much for the kind invitation to take part in today's discussions. It's a real pleasure to be here and hear all of you, and hopefully share some interesting insights as well from Eurofund's work. So as mentioned, my name is Sana Nivakoski. I'm a research officer at Eurofund. So this is the European Foundation for the Improvement of Living and Working Conditions, an EU agency based in Dublin, Ireland. And I will just very briefly introduce a couple of interesting findings from Eurofund's recent research that relates to life balance and work-life balance and issues around that. And today, as we have very short amount of time for this, I'll just show you some European Union level statistics from before the pandemic and during the pandemic. But of course, if you're interested, of course, we gather information from all EU member states and sometimes beyond. So if you're interested, you can look at Eurofund's publications that quite a lot of them touch upon working conditions, of course, so things like work-life balance as well, and looking at the member state level. So just to introduce a little bit about life balance and why we would look at this in our research. So of course, as we've heard today as well, it can be very challenging to merge the different aspects of all of our lives. And these include different categorizations, but broadly speaking, paid work, unpaid work, and we can, within unpaid work, think about care responsibilities being quite a big part of that. And then, of course, personal time, our leisure and our rest time. And putting these components together can, of course, be challenging, and these conflicts in this combination can then manifest in difficulties in paid work, difficulties in finding time for family life, lack of personal time and recuperation, general exhaustion, etc., etc. And as we can imagine, and as we've already heard today, these problems are very much related to where we are in our life cycle, in the different stages. And these kinds of conflicts and problems are particularly common when many different aspects of life are demanding our resources at the same time. And as we can imagine, one example of a group of people where these conflicts are very common is when we have working parents, and particularly working parents of young children. So in the couple of statistics that I'll be showing you today, we are going to just focus on this group. So we're looking at working parents in particular. So what I thought would be interesting is to compare what was the situation before the pandemic in the EU overall. So we're looking at 2015 data from one of Eurofund's surveys, the Working Conditions Survey. And then in a slide or two, I will show you what the picture looks like during the pandemic in the last 2 years. So here we compare the situation and the reporting among mothers and fathers of these different kinds of work-life conflict that we've mapped. So for example, we see the first item, so people reporting that they kept worrying about work when not working, and this was slightly higher among fathers than among mothers. And the other kind of problem that's slightly more likely to be reported by fathers is finding that job prevented them from giving time to their families. And of course, here we're not adjusting for working hours. So of course, we know that men have longer working hours than women do. So hence we can expect these kinds of gender differences. And then the other three items that we have reported here are more the conflicts between paid work and unpaid work in the home. So we have a higher percentage of mothers than fathers reporting these kinds of issues. So being too tired after work for household jobs, or finding it difficult to focus or find the time for paid work because of family responsibilities. And we can see here and reflect on the kind of prevalence of these kinds of issues that were reported 7 years ago. But then, of course, a lot of things changed in the last 2 years, and the pandemic had a lot of consequences. So, for example, for parents, of course, the closures of schools and childcare facilities was a big issue, and there was a lot of additional childcare and education placed on the shoulders, especially of parents. And we know that there is a gender imbalance in unpaid work and childcare duties, where women, mothers, do a larger share of this kind of work. And for this reason, we see in the pandemic data that mothers were more likely than fathers to take on more of this additional work during the pandemic. And we know also what else happened during the pandemic when it comes to paid work is that a lot of people switched to working from home. So telework became recommended or mandated at different points in the last 2 years for a lot of people. And we know that there's a gender imbalance where women in the EU are more likely to work in jobs where working from home is possible. So we see this also in the statistics. So women in the EU were more likely than men to start working from home in the last 2 years. So we see that the combination of these effects and the gender imbalance here leads to this struggle to, at the same time, meet the demands of paid work and unpaid work and family responsibilities. And this has been especially the case for teleworking mothers, so mothers who work from home, and especially those with younger children. So just as my final slide, I'll just show you what those rates that we were reporting there before the pandemic, what they look like in the data collected in the last 2 years. And apologies, I should here at the top have 2020, 2021. So these are Eurofund's pandemic period data results. And the main point to take home from this is that the rate of all of these conflicts, the reporting of these has increased significantly compared to the 2015 data. So work-life conflict really increased a lot during the pandemic. We see that the rates of reporting are higher among women or among mothers than fathers across all the categories. So even the types of conflicts that used to be more common among fathers are now more common among mothers. And these yellow highlighted conflicts where mothers were previously reporting them more often, the gender gap has widened even further. So we see that particularly among mothers, the work-life conflict has increased significantly. And we see finally that the last two kinds of conflicts, so family responsibilities and making it difficult to give time or concentration to paid work, has really expanded 3- or 4-fold compared to before the pandemic. And just as a final piece of interesting information, for example, if we look at the accumulation of different kinds of risk factors, if we look at the second last risk of finding it difficult to concentrate on the job because of family responsibilities, so overall during the pandemic, 18% of mothers reported these issues. But if we look at the spring of 2020, when the pandemic hit, and we look at teleworking mothers of young children in particular, this rate increases to 46%. So being at a very high risk of having these kinds of problems during the pandemic in particular. So I'll leave it there, and hopefully you find these interesting. And if you're interested to look into this further, we have a project relating to topics like this and others, especially looking at gender divides in the pandemic and how these have been affected. And we will be publishing a report in October of this year on these topics. And maybe if the slides are shared later on, you can find the link to the publication there also. But you can just find it on Eurofund's website. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Sana. Thank you so much. And we have now lots of context information why time policies are so important. And we will go now to the second part of this event, and we will look at good practices in lifetime balance. But before that, I just want to mention that there are 2 hashtags all the audience can use to tweet. And this is first the hashtag time agenda, and the second is right to time, all without spaces in between. And now we start with the first part. It is about public policies aimed at improving life balance towards citizens. And as we are already about 10 minutes or 15 minutes late, please be short. You all have about 5 minutes for your presenting of the example. And to start with Diana Maria Parra Romera from Bogota. She is Undersecretary of Care and Equality Policies and Secretary of Women's Affairs of Bogota. And you start, please, Diana Maria.
Thank you, Corinne. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My intervention will be in Spanish, but the presentation is in English for better understanding. Okay. In a second. Hoy vengo a contarles sobre el Sistema Distrital de Cuidado de Bogotá, que es una de las 15 innovaciones más importantes que tiene hoy en día el mundo.
We have in the world today. This is considered by Bloomberg. We just won the Bloomberg Major Challenge. So we're very proud to be setting up a care system that aims to give time to women, basically. So it's important to have data. And first, I want to tell you that 9 out of 10 women in Bogota do unpaid work, 3 hours of unpaid work. That means that we do cleaning work, ironing work, taking care of children, of the elderly, of people with disability. And we have about 30% of women in Bogota who devote exclusively to unpaid care work over 10 hours every day. It's important to say this out loud. Why? Because basically we have time poverty. Women in Bogota live in time poverty, and that is clearly seen in the way they cannot lead their own lives and life projects. 70% of the 1,200,000 women, about 30% of women in Bogota, have at least only secondary education. 33% of them do not have free time to do sport or physical activity or to have a rest. 90% of these women live in social and economic vulnerability. They have low income or very scarce income, and about 20% have a chronic diagnosed disease, which means that these women will need care in the future, and there is a replication of the time poverty cycle and the overburden that they experience. So what is the care system? Basically, it coordinates services to address care demands in a shared and responsible manner between the city, council, the state, the private sector, communities, and households to strike a balance in this care work and to give time to women to achieve their personal projects, to take care of themselves, to have a better well-being, to generate income, and to carry out their political participation in the city. So the care system has three main goals. The first one is to recognize the care work, the unpaid care work in the city. Currently, we know that 13% of the Bogota's GDP is produced precisely by unpaid care work. We want to recognize the needs of caregivers. We want to redistribute responsibility in a more egalitarian manner between men and women in terms of time uses, and to reduce the amount of unpaid care work and the overload that is basically placed on women. So we have a series of beneficiaries through our care system, and we target carers, children, under 13, elderly people in need of care, and people with disabilities that will need care. And we also involve men and families to be able to carry out a cultural transformation. What kind of services do we provide to caregivers? Well, education, well-being, and income generation. To those people who need care, we provide them with professional care and activities for the development of their capacities and for them to gain more autonomy and independence, so that we can give more free time to caregivers. And men and families, we teach them to take care of people. It's important to say that you can learn how to take care of someone. It's not that women are born as carers. It's the socialization and the gender roles in which we are raised up, in which there is this sexual division of labor, and women become those that will put up with the brunt of taking care of others. And that's why we need this cultural transformation, and we need to take care of the carers. There's another important piece of information here, and that is that our care system is simultaneous and is based on proximity. So we basically try to free up time of our carers, and proximity means that we don't want them to commute very long to take care of the people in need. So the care system works through care blocks, care pockets, door-to-door care work, care buses, and then we have care units, which are schools, gardens, among other infrastructures and social services. These are our care blocks. As I told you, by using these variables, we will be able to work in proximity we will be able to provide the services simultaneously, and we will be able to generate a change in the understanding of how social services and care work are provided. Currently, we have 10 care blocks. Hopefully, by the end of our term, we will go up to 20 care blocks disseminated throughout Bogota. And for 2035, we would like to go up to 45 care blocks. Now, these are our care buses that allow us to go to other places and provide the same services that we provide in our care blocks, because at the same time that we take care of people or children who are in need of care, well, in that same time slot, we are taking care of the carers. How do we take care of them? Well, by providing them with educational services, as you can see on screen, giving them breaks, and also services for income generation. So the same services will be taken to the rural areas of Bogota. The Bogota surface, only 30% of the Bogota surface is urban. The other 70% is rural land. And we need to think up strategies to take our care strategy to that rural area. So we want both urban and rural women to benefit from this care system, and we want them to have time to develop their life projects. And we know that there are care conditions that prevent carers and cared people to go out of their household because of functional dependence. They cannot go to the care blocks or the care buses. So the care system goes to the home of these carers and replaces them. While a person, a hired person by the public administration, takes care of their patients or is doing home chores, well, that carer can be receiving educational services, completing their secondary education, also getting a certification and trying to generate income.
Sorry, we are running out of time. Are you coming to an end?
Give me 2 minutes, we can finish. Okay.
And lastly, I want to focus on the cultural transformation. We aim to generate a cultural change. We want men to do care work, and that's how we teach them to take care. Today, we have 10 care blocks. As I said, we want to go up to 45 care blocks for 2035, and we will achieve it because the care system today organizes the Bogota territory, and it allows us to guarantee the existence and of the care system. If you want more information about the care system, you can scan this QR code, and it will take you to links and websites with information, presentations, briefing, etc. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Diana. It was of high interest, but sorry for interrupting you. And the next speaker now is Nuria Verges. I hope I pronounce it right. She's General Director of the Care Time Organization and Employment Equity of the Catalan government. Please, Nuria.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to share this presentation as well. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Muchísimas gracias. I share the diagnosis with many of you around time poverty and the importance to take into account gender. And my presentation is based in Catalonia. We are about 7.5 million people and just over 1 million children. And the presentation of the program that I'm giving for you today, it's called Time for Care, Temps per Cures in Catalan, which basically consists of funding and support for city councils and county councils to strengthen and create child care services for children between 0 and 16 throughout Catalonia, which means babysitting services, toy libraries, weekend camps, summer camps, and all combinations from related services that might be needed and created by the city councils. And why do we do that? No, what's the main goal behind all this? We believe that governments, our government, la Generalitat de Catalunya, but also local governments should be engaged in taking care of the people. So to engage in public responsibility towards care. And in this sense, we aim to consolidate the right for girls and boys to be cared for. We want to free up time for families, especially women, which we know who are mostly being assigned to care. And with a public program to generate new quality employment in the care sector. And by doing this, basically, we advance inequality, gender equality. Sí?
Sorry, one moment, Núria. Can you check the configuration configuració de la visualització para poderlo ver en pantalla completa? Configuració de la visualització? A dalt de tot? No, a dalt, a dalt.
A dalt, on?
On finalitza la presentació al costat, configuració de la... una miqueta més amunt. Veus que hi ha tres pestanyes? Configuració de mostra de la barra de tasques, configuració de la visualització i finalitza la presentació. Tu ho veus?
Mostra la barra de tasques,
al costat.
Stop video. No,
just al
només
costat.
em surt el mute.
No, mostra al costat, configuració de la visualització.
No, no hi surt.
No et surt al costat? Vale, jo ho estic veient des d'aquí. Vale, doncs deurem veure pantalles diferents. Cap problema, perdona que t'interrompi.
Bueno, però es veu, no?
Es veu, sí, però veiem les dues pantalles, però era per veure-ho millor. Perfecte, disculpa.
There was some visualization problems that I think if you still can see that we keep going this way. So basically our idea is to advance in inequality, gender equality, obviously, because we're freeing time for women, especially we're taking care of kids, but also geographical equality, because if not, there are certain cities that might have more creativity or progressive governments, and they are engaged in this kind of services and others not. So it's a way to bring that to the whole Catalan territory. And also equality, socioeconomic equality. And this comes from the Department of Equality and Feminisms. It's a new ministry that we highly needed in our country to bring all these kind of policies. And we're carrying it out from this new general direction that I'm honored to lead, the General Direction of Care Policies, Organization of Time and Equity in Work, which means, by definition, we cannot separate gender equality from time policies and for care policies. So they are all entangled together, and we have to take this into account when we carry out policies. And the importance to take into account gender equality and the feminist perspective when we carry out policies, from the design to the implementation and the evaluation of these policies, no? And this is the case of this Time for Care program. And again, when we're talking about care, proximity is very important. Care is taken near you, in the towns, in the cities, everywhere, near the families. So this needs to be taken into account, and that's why it's so important for us to arrive to the whole country. With this program, we aim at increasing services, increasing the number of professionals, which means professionals that we no longer have to work informally, but formally with rights, and increase the number of spaces dedicated to care in our society, in our country. And again, babysitting services, summer camps, weekend camps, before and after school clubs, toy libraries, and any kind of similar services we're talking about. And we could define these services as public, because for us it's important that it's public, that is either directly public managed or outsource just the management, but prioritize with this prioritization of entities with social responsibility, because for us this is a must. This is very important. And mostly we're talking about public services because they are mostly carried out in public spaces or in spaces with public use, even if exceptionally we also consider the possibility to have services at home. It's all related to care activities, but the importance of care, social care, not just services for education, because we already have education and we already have social services. So it's not only education or only social services, but care services. And this aim of universality is very important for us. No, we must strive for universality and the gratuity of those services if we want everybody to have the same possibility to enjoy them. So in this sense, it's not just for certain children or children at risk, for example, but still we need to prioritize some groups of families or women that we know they have certain difficulties when we think about time and care. In case of a high demand, and if we need to establish some kind of payable services, we are asking to use criteria of access related to income and care. So, you know, because it's important, the establishment of these priority groups. And when we do that, we think about who is having more problems when we think about care and time, specifically and clearly single parent families, 85% of them female-headed. So this also has high gender impacts. Families with other care responsibilities, either because they have more than one child, either because they have other friends or family around that they have to take care for. Women in gender-based violence situations, this shows again, no, the gender perspective behind that. Women in gender-based violence situation, they tend to encounter single parent situations. At the same time, they need to go to the judiciary system to do a lot of papers, and they need someone to take care of their children and not to have to worry about this. Women in long-term unemployment, to do whatever they want. If they want to get extra training, as they were saying in Bogota, to go back to better jobs, this is a possibility. Women over 52 from next year over 45, and also migrant women, because they have less networks to help them to take care for their children, and they are in it, and we don't normally think about them. And I wanted to point to one group that we are attending through the program, which is the people that, because of the war of Ukraine, are nowadays living with us. 55% are children out of 40,000 people that arrived for the last months here in Catalonia with us. So they need to be taken care of. They need to be attended. And this program is also attending them wherever they are when they move around the territory to try to find their way to live with us. So thank you very much. Moltes gracias. And I'm open to any questions and anything else. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nuria. And it was worthwhile to mention the problem of Ukraine and the families and the need for care for those who come from Ukraine. And now, just to remind the next speakers, we are about 30 minutes late. And I give the way to Emilia Palas-Zenkel from Barcelona Business Network for new working time arrangements from Barcelona. I hope she's there.
You can hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Good afternoon, everybody. You can see my screen? Yeah?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Emilia, can you try to go to configuració de visualització? Do you pair? A dalt de tot? Arriba del tot?
No, don't
tampoco.
Mostra la
cara.
És que jo sí. Ok.
Endavant.
Perfecte.
I don't exist.
Okay. No, sorry.
Sorry. You can see more or less. Good afternoon. I will present you one of the experience that we have in Barcelona. It's the NUS Business Network. And what is the bus business network? Is okay. You hear the colleagues speak about the inequalities in the wartime in the war. I have only 3 slides about these inequalities in in different countries of the standard working hours per week, inequalities in the work intensity, irregularity of working time, and also important gender inequalities. So, and in Spain, we have a peculiarity regarding the organization of the time that differentiate us from the rest of European countries. We have long lunch breaks and the extension of working hours until late in the evening. At 6 p.m., 42 of the people are still working. So the debate about the working time is not only a question of quantity of working time hours, but also the way in which we can distribute working time in order to be more healthy, egalitarian, and efficient. And how could be better working time arrangements in the companies? This is the question. That requires a wide range of policies, both at national level as well as regional and local, but also at business level. Since 2004, Barcelona has become a pioneer city in Spain in the field of time policies, with the creation of a specific Concilio's office. Since then, Barcelona City Council is committed to promoting time policies that have an impact on the quality of life of citizens. And working time arrangements are a key dimension of these policies. Improving the organization of time in companies can have important effects on the right to time in our society. We try to promoting the adoption by companies of more efficient models of time management and boosting a new culture of work and a new culture of working time. Since 2006, Barcelona has counted on the NUS business network, and that is a fundamental partner to foster these time policies in our city. The NUS network is a local business network and also a learning community focused on improving working time arrangements in a manner that benefit the needs of both employees and employers, and also the whole city. The NUS network allows raise awareness on benefits of better working time arrangements based on the power of experience and narrative from the companies. This is the most important. And the companies say what are the business benefits of this work, no? Achieving increased productivity, attracting and retaining right talent, promoting gender equality, improving work-life balance or job satisfaction and commitment to the organization. And what type of collaborative activities undertake the network? You see, the NUS network has been operating in Barcelona for 15 years, from 30 companies in the beginning to more than 130 companies nowadays. And the network brings together human resources managers and executives from this organization and companies from all sectors, different sizes, public or private organizations with experience or no. And the goals from this network are shared knowledge, exchange of innovative experience, recognition of best practices, the visibility, and raise awareness. And how work the NUS? The NUS is a community that supports change through learning opportunities, help managers to develop and implement better and balanced and flexible working time arrangements through these information exchange, good practices, dissemination, workshops, mentoring, and peer-to-peer support. For instance, offer the members a menu of different activities in which to engage, different ways to participate and contribute to the network. They can be a members, ambassadors, digital activists, or mentors. And only image about and I would end by highlighting two experiences. The mentoring program. The mentoring program is a peer-to-peer support methodology that promotes that companies with expertise in the field of time organization share their knowledge, experience, and support to companies that want to learn in a personal way. We have 2 editions during 6 months. They work together once every month, and the evaluation of these 2 editions is very positive, both by mentoring and mentored companies. And another, the last, is that the creation of the annual award for innovative companies in time organization. Every year since 2012, the award aims to contribute to the visibility of innovation efforts in this area. The jury made up of experts and representatives from the city, economic, business, trade union, and university, recognize companies that are implementing innovative measures such as the guarantee of the right to digital disconnection or the 4-day working week this year. And 10 years and more than 40 awarded companies are the best way to move forward. And this is the end of my intervention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Emilia. The last speaker in this section is Marina Lafay. She's counselor at Time Office and innovative service of the Strasbourg City Council. You have the floor now, Marina.
Yeah. Thank you. So, dear elected colleagues, dear Laura Perez, dear member of the network, and dear Marta, thank you very much for the invitation and the organization of this event. And today I'm very happy to share with you some information about the public procurement in Strasbourg. As you know, I'm an elected municipal councillor and area. I'm in charge of time policies, but of course I have more responsibilities. For instance, I'm permanent member for the commission in charge of the procurement, public procurement for Strasbourg City, but also for the metropolis area called Eurometropole, which covers 63 municipalities, and Eurometropole's got almost 500,000 people. So first of all, I want to explain that in the law in France, there is a plan and some action which are an obligation for the biggest local authorities and cities. And this plan, it's called SPASER. SPASER, that means in French, Schéma de promotion des achats publics socialement and écologiquement responsables. In fact, it's a plan and a strategy to improve the public procurement with clear actions, with strong demands in favor of public procurement, eco-friendly, more resilient, and with social responsibility commitments. And when we were elected 2 years ago, there was a SPASER in Strasbourg, which was already very known in France, but we renovated it, we expanded the program to demand more in all the fields, including, for instance, the intellectual or communication services. And in this social field, your action concerned, for instance, job training for young people, employability for people who are outside the labor market, but also healthy management and work-life balance and gender aspect. So I would like to insist about gender aspect and work-life balance. Actually, we stand at the beginning in this action. At this stage, we do pedagogy. We prepare the company slowly because we have to keep an objective. We have to have a competition, to have several companies responding to our requests and needs. The company, they receive a questionnaire with several questions. And for instance, we ask some questions like, do you have a policy of equality for men and women? Do you have a flexibility of work for work-life balance? Do you have a long paternity leave for the young fathers? And we ask at the end, what actions they commit to put in place if they are the market winner. So all these actions are not scoring criteria, but today we are thinking about that. Very soon it will become on certain points an obligation to choose the best candidates. With, of course, also two other important aspects, the price, naturally, and the technical quality of the work and services. But today, for instance, the social and environmental aspect account often for 30% of the point for the final scoring. Actually, in Strasbourg, the Strasbourg Spazer, the Strasbourg Plan Spazer, is known as the best practices in France. And I'm also convinced that our meeting today will improve our practices and decisions about life-work balance to expand our vision. Our plan Spazer is in Strasbourg is the only one built with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 agenda of the United Nations. That is also important. And to finish, I can say another thing that in the past, the Time Mission in Strasbourg has already worked with success for the work-life balance, for instance, for the internal cleaning staff procurement, for the workers, many of them are women. There is a management working which include a goal of work-life balance. And this case is also very known in France. So to conclude, I would like also, in my name and from Christian Brassac, my colleague, which is president of the Public Procurement Commission, to thank you very much for your attention and for the organization of this event.
Thank you very much, Marina. We will start now with the second part of good examples, and this is on public policies for public employees. And I think we all would need now a break, but we don't have time for a break. And we start with Silvia Profanter, and she's head of the Statistics and Time, the City Office of Bolzano City Council. Silvia.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Bolzano. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. Now I try to share my video. Okay, I hope you can see it, and I will explain what I'm talking about today. I will present you the smart working and flexibility policies of our administration. First of all, maybe I give you some information about Bolzano. Bolzano is the capital of Italian province in the north of Italy, and at the border with Austria. Bolzano is a small town. We have 107,000 inhabitants, and the administration has 970 employees. And 55% of these employees are women. So since 2004, our administration has always made the work-life balance one of the most important objectives of his policies. We have different part-times, the hours bank, the flexible working hours, and we had also daily working. So maybe I start with the part-time. That we have 4 different kind of part-time contracts for 50%, 60%, 75%, 87%. 216 of employees work in part-time, and 200 of these are women. This mode of working, the part-time, is a good solution for men and women to care about, take care about the children and the elderly, but it's not the best solution because it affects the pension share. So we use other tools to accommodate the needs of the employees of our administration, like flexible working hours and the hours bank. We have almost 400 working timetables, and these timetables, these flexible working timetables, offer us very flexible working hours. And this so-named hours bank. This hours bank is a kind of bank account where each extra hour worked is saved, and for each hour you can entitle 1 hour to leave to make up the overtime, because no overtime is paid. So the administration forces the employees to recovery and to take the hours off. Let's come to the smart working. The smart working is was introduced in Italy with the law of 2017, the law number 81, and the objective was to promote working hours flexibility and to guarantee a better work-life balance. So in March 2020, with the COVID-19 infections, we started, like other public administration, to adopt this new mode to work, the smart working. And from the beginning, 432 employees of our 970 were able to smart work because their job was suitable for this mode. 71% of these employees were women, and 65% of them had a full-time contract. During 2020, our office carried out a survey to measure the satisfaction of the employees regarding the smart working, and the results were very positive. So we had the experience was rated overall with a score of 8.2 out of 10 possible points, and 81% of the respondents said that they wanted to continue the smart working. So these experiences, and the survey was resubmitted in 2021. The results of these two surveys contributed we said that there were a lot of pros and of cons, and the result of these surveys contributed to the definition of a framework agreement between the province of Bolzano and other public administration on the territory, because the province of Bolzano is autonomous, so we have the primary competence to define personal regulations. So there was made a kind of framework contract involving also the trade unions. So the municipality of Bolzano decided to establish these smart working contract conditions by an agreement between the employees and the employer and the director. And in 2021, 386 employees of our administration decided to sign this individual agreement and to be able to continue the smart working under the new conditions. In the individual contract, there must be specified the range of working time, also a time slot where you are reachable by telephone, and the slot of time slot where the administration guarantee the employee the right to disconnect. In the individual contract, there are also defined the objectives and the projects that have to be completed by the worker. In the contract also there's written if the employee uses his own electronic devices, or if he uses the devices provided by the administration. In any case, the employee must ensure that the work is made in a secure location, better if the location is inside, so that it can be guaranteed the privacy of the process data. So I'm coming to the end. Thank you very much for your attention, and if someone has some question, you can ask me afterwards.
Thank you very much, Silvia. The next speaker is Francesca Zaschik from, she's university professor and representing Deputy Mayor for Mobility of the Comune di Milano. So Francesca, we are looking forward to your presentation.
What happened? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, yeah, but I see myself in the twice. Well, anyway, I will be very short, because Caterina Laurenzi will go in detail explaining the practice. I am very happy to be here today, because it's the first time that the municipality of Milan appoint a specific delegate in time and mobility and accessibility. As you know, I don't want to speak too much, but I suppose everybody knows Milan in Italy was maybe the first city in Italy, sure, but also in Europe, studying time and space. But for this at the beginning of the 1990. After that, this topic completely disappeared. And for this reason, I think nowadays is very important the existing of this network. And I thank you, everybody is working on that. And also the meeting, the today meeting. To be a delegate in time, space and mobility is very important, because I have the responsibility of coordinating not only this specific network inside the municipality of Milan and at an international level, but also I have the responsibility to coordinate the offices inside the municipality, which will work on the topic of time and mobility. Very briefly, just a very few words about the near working, which is our best practice, because I want just to underline how there are some important relationship with the recommendation from the agenda. One is the flexibility. The near working promote flexibility in work organization and working hours, and underline the importance of data. I mean, the importance to monitor the progress of the practice, and for this reason, the importance of the statistics data. Near working is an important balancing policy for everybody, everyone. Public employees from one end and business companies from the other end. At the moment, the practice, it is a tested policy for only for public workers, but it is also transferable to private ones. So I just want to underline, to point out the importance of public-private collaboration. The last consideration concerns the territorial planning of the policy. In fact, it is necessary to have data and maps on public services and facilities in the neighborhood, in the community, but also to take into account the distribution of the population, the mobility patterns, and the use of public transport. I forgot gender equity, but it is know how this point is important itself. So to be quickly, I give the way to Caterina and for the detail of the practice named near working. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesca.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I will be super quick and concise. The near working, basically, we have to, let's say, move a step backward. In 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Civil Service Department of our country introduced the organizational plan for agile working, which basically set a program of rules in defining remote working for public administration employees. And in the perspective of adopting this plan, the municipality of Milan introduced for all its employees engaged in work activities that can be somehow performed remotely, the possibility of carrying out their working day within municipal offices, all distributed throughout the city, which do not necessarily correspond to the normally assigned work location. And the project, as Professor Francesca has explained before, is called near working because basically it allows municipal employees to carry out their working day close to their homes and to experience their neighborhoods to a greater extent in link with the vision of the 15-minute city. And a wide-ranging remote working plan has been implemented in the municipality of Milan in 2021, again through the POLA, the organizational plan for agile working. And this was met with considerable success and contributed in easing traffic congestion and in guaranteeing less crowded working spaces. However, as you can imagine, not all the municipalities' employees find the best working condition at home, as they often lack the necessary space or circumstances to make the most of this opportunity. So the main goals of the near working policy were and still are contributing to a more sustainable city by reducing, for example, vehicle traffic, relieving transport congestions, but also offering workers a change of the scenery and the opportunity to meet new co-workers and learn new skills and knowledge exchange, and specifically providing them with suitable working spaces near their home, also with necessary technological equipment. And of course, again, simulating, let's say, knowledge exchange. And very quickly, the organizational plan for the agile work, the so-called POLA, was introduced in a context that has long been oriented towards the activation of neighborhood services, environmental protection, and the neighbor economy and proximity, and general speaking, improving the well-being of the city community. In fact, this plan is linked with specific objectives and strategic plans of the municipality of Milan that were already previously adopted. And the pandemic has proven to be an unprecedented testing ground in remote working for the municipality's employees. And remote working solutions have provided consistent benefits in terms of sustainability, safety, and help in family caretaking chores. But there is a fact, and is very similar to the situation of Bozen, of Bolzano. Almost 52% of the municipality of Milan's employees come every day to Milan from outside the city, and others live in areas that are distant from their workplaces. Most of them appreciate the chance to work from home when this is allowed. However, many do not live in homes that guarantee the necessary space, equipment, or general condition for productive work, or are simply not close from to their workspace. And so for this reason, in order to somehow answer to their need, in September 2021, the municipality of Milan promoted the near working policy, arranging for 8 of its workplaces to be available to near workers who are employees of the municipality that decide to work not in their traditional workplace, but in places close to their home. And those workplaces have reservable workstations that are set up for those who were and still are interested. And at the same time, the municipality looked for further suitable locations in collaboration with its public utilities, private companies, through project that is called Smart Working Community, thanks to the collaboration with Asso Lombarda, which in Italy is the official association of enterprises, which counts more or less 6,000 companies in Milan only, and in co-working spaces around the city in order to provide more options for commuters from the wider metropolitan area. The project continues as more options are being considered and studies on the intercity mobility of public employees are being undertaken in order to, let's say, pinpoint the best locations near transport hubs, which are strategic for commuters. And the possibility of equating remote work in workplaces of the municipality of Milan and the remote work in private or other spaces is also being examined and is still active. Also, what is interesting is the interaction with the workers employed by public utilities or private companies, because it's somehow a bonus. Consider the fact that in Italy, the public-private interaction also among employees is not still common. And these are the key aspects of the policies. So we have, let's say, we have to identify suitable workplaces and building within the wider city area that are managed by different actors, as previously mentioned, public utilities or in-house companies, private companies, or space owned by ourselves, so the municipality of Milan. We have to plan and set up fully equipped the workstations with the technological hardware, software, and internet connections for all our employees. And we also developed a system for booking those workstations on a daily basis for the employees who decided to do near working. And then we are monitoring the existing opportunities and looking for new possible workplaces for the future. And this is a global overview of the results at the present moment. We have 8 workplaces that are directly owned by ourselves, which count 50 daily available reservable slots for our employees, which means almost 4,000 slots per year all around the city. And thanks to the collaboration with private actors, we have 2 workplaces which host 21 daily available reservable slots for our employees. And in this slide, you can have a glance on the 8 workplaces that are municipally owned, which are located in the mostly in the peripheral areas of the city, and specifically the C and the D are the location that are more booked by our employees. So here in the column of this chart, you can see the percentage of the coverage of each workplace. And this is a distribution of the usage of those spaces per month and per workplaces. So November, February, and March were the months during which the bookings were highest. And this is a very quick overview on the smart working community, which is the collaboration, the partnership that we have with 2 private companies, specifically TIM and Enel, thanks to the Milano Smart City Alliance, that is a program of Fondazione Assolombarda. And this is pretty interesting because it's a policy that combines, let's say, a public direct action on the city with a public-private partnership that can be strategic in terms of course, inclusion for our employees, but also of positive impact on the overall urban community in terms of environmental spillover, as well as cultural, let's say, effects on the city itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Katarina. And thank you to all the contributions and the speakers. It was very, very interesting. And normally we plan now to have a 45 minutes discussion on transferability and a debate among the speakers. And I spontaneously decided with Marta that we will raise some of the questions from the audience. I will read them, and whoever wants can give an answer. And please, if possible, add some key ideas on transferability. And I start with the first question now. This is, do you think, would it help to involve the other UN body, the World Health Organization, especially on the national levels, and from there into the regional and local levels, in order to get relevant health recommendations for time policies? Who wants to answer this question?
Maybe, Karin, you can read all the questions, and then everybody goes around and answers the questions that they want. Sounds good?
Shall I read all the questions? Do you think, oh, everybody remembers? Okay, I read the questions, and whoever wants to answer then can answer. Another question, I think it is a question to Catalonia, is how have you managed to work at the regional level when providing a service that aims to be really close to the carers? Who are the key stakeholders to involve? There's another special question to Sana and Mariluz. Do you take the context of a workday into account? It is not only about the number of hours worked. And the third question is, do you take the household level into account? How does the household arrange the working day to be able to give care? Also, is there a difference to countries? And I think the last question is why the event is called Life Balance. This is a very interesting question. And then there is a statement of Francesca, but maybe I hear stop, and who wants to give an answer to one of these questions and maybe add an idea on transferability. This is challenging now.
If there was a
Okay.
question specific for Catalonia, maybe I can answer directly. I can start. Okay. Who are the key stakeholders? How do we manage to get to the people? Basically, the funding we provided was for municipalities over 20,000, and then for county councils, in which all micro councils and councils under 20,000 are involved. So this is a way to get to who has the power to decide in the whole territory. And people that works already in inequality or care or similar areas, social services in some municipalities are our stakeholders, as well as associations of councils, like, for example, the Association of Micro Towns. We had an event yesterday. We explained to everybody that is interested in the program. In these explanations, we give ideas on how did they manage to create this new service in another similar town, because sometimes Catalonia is very diverse. We have mountains, we have beach, we have big cities, but also very, very, very tiny ones. And sometimes a very, very tiny one from the south is very similar to a very tiny one from the north, and so on. So giving ideas and making it possible, meetings for benchmarking to share all these ideas. So it was very, very fruitful. And the Department of Equality and Feminisms is also in the territory. So we have directors in the territory, and also we have contracted people that is in the territory in the 8 areas that they are helping in this endeavor, following the cases. That's why we said it's not just about funding, but also giving support, following up. We created these guides so they have ideas and they know how to follow the process. Of course, there is a lot of room to improve. We are just starting, and it's a process of learning by doing at the same time. But this is the idea, to keep fostering that. And in this sense, I wanted to highlight this in terms of transferability, the importance of having a budget, because without money it's very difficult to do things, the importance of coordinating and following up, not just giving the budget, leaving the budget there, but then forgetting, find spaces to share the knowledge, to share ideas, to share best practices like we're doing here today, and also writing them down for anybody that could not attend. And of course, gender perspective. If we use the gender perspective in all the phases, we can assure and make visible and be sure all this is well implemented and is taking into account everybody when we think about the impacts of our policies. So that would be my 3 issues to highlight. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuria. Maria Luz Vega, she raised her hand.
Sorry, I was on mute. I would have loved to talk before, but I have a terrible allergy, and I think all in Spain we are suffering now, and I was under the effect of this. In relation to the involvement of the WHO, to the World Health Organization, is already involved. They are producing statistics and areas on working time, and in fact they are working with us in the area of statistics with the ILO. In particular, they are providing the information on the relation of working time on communicational diseases and another one. They say, of course, we need to involve the organization, and we are working together all on this area. I think the question of the statistics is more related to my colleague from Eurofund, from Sana. But in any case, to be completely honest, ILO is considering unpaid work and care work as worker. As it's already has been discussed at the level of the statistic definition, and unpaid work is already work. In this case, we need to consider, if it's work, we need to consider working time as an important issue. Then the way is how to do it, but at least the premises of recognition of his work is already a good point. Thank you.
Thank you. Sana, what would you like to add?
Yes, thank you very much for the very interesting questions and very relevant, as colleagues have been saying already. And indeed, as Maria highlighted there, the issue of total work time is really important and relevant. And that's something that we're doing and looking into in Eurofund's research as well. So when you put together the paid work and the unpaid work, you get a more complete picture, and say if you're studying the gender imbalances in work effort and time use, it's really important to take all of this into consideration. And it's not the case at all that when, you know, men doing more paid work and women doing more unpaid work and these things would balance out. It's not the case. So when you look at total work time, we see women doing, in some cases, you know, a standard working day extra over what men do over the course of a week. So the differences are really big. So looking into length of the work day and the work week in its total definition is really illuminating. And of course, knowing that men are more likely than women to work full-time and longer hours in paid work, then it's also interesting comparing, say, the gender imbalances in work-life balance when you compare full-time working people or full-time working parents as well. And this is something that we have been looking into. But something that maybe hasn't been talked about very much today, but what's really important, and from the general ability to do important work in this regard, is collecting the data that we need. And of course, say in Eurofund's data collection, we have some measurements of unpaid work time, but without you know, comprehensive surveys that use time diaries and things like this, the measurement is always a little bit imperfect. And you know, what components of unpaid work do we take into account? Some surveys only capture housework and childcare and other care for other relatives, for example. But to get a more comprehensive picture, we need to have really good data over time across countries and all of this. So there's definitely more work to be done and important work to be done. And just maybe to highlight one thing that I think is also highlighted in the agenda that's being published today at the back of this event, and something that has been mentioned already before, is really the importance of promoting gender balance in adopting new policies and in flexible work arrangements, for example. So we know from experience and evidence that women are much more likely than men to take up flexible work arrangements. And that already stems, say, from the gender disparities in work segregation in the different sectors. So women are more likely to work in jobs where working from home is possible, for example. So in order for these kinds of divisions not to exacerbate existing gender inequalities, it's really important to try and ensure that men and women equally take up these new and emerging work flexibility arrangements, just to prevent the fact that women may become even more invisible in the workplace, and using flexible work arrangements to be able to carry out more unpaid work, for example, in the home. So those are just some points to maybe highlight. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Sana. I see no other hands raised up, and I will give the floor now to Katja Kuga from, Marta, you want to say something, please. Please.
Thank you very much. I will try to answer to the different questions. First of all, yeah, is needed to ensure the right to time to all citizens and to get a better balance between the time use that we are doing as a society and erase or reduce the time poverty. It is important that municipalities and regions are involved, but not only them, as we have shared today. All the stakeholders need to be involved. And this includes private agents as companies, but as well includes social actors as trade unions and business organizations and entities. So it will be very important that not just the local and regional level are doing time policies, but as well the global institutions should put time policies in their agenda as a right to time, as a working time, and related to health and equality, as we said at the beginning. That's the reason that the event of today was not called only work-life balance, because we want to insist on this idea. Work is a very necessary element to live in this society, but we need to find a better balance between the other 4 elements: the element of work, the element of care, the element of resting and leisure. And current, the balance for people is not working enough. So that's why the levels, that data, that we were sharing today on the part-time, that it's much more taken by women than men, and the data that Sana and Maria Lut have been sharing. So we need to find a better balance between these 4 elements, not just 3, these 4 elements. And last but not least, I will like to remind to all of you that, as we have said in the publication that it is being presented today, you will find 10 recommendations on how to implement these time policies. Some of them have already been mentioned by the speakers, others not, but you will find all of them explained here in the publication. So nothing else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marta. This was very important remarks. And now I will give the floor to Katja Kuga. She's board member of the local and regional government time network, and she is from Tempo Territorial. And she will give us the closing remarks for this event.
Yes, hello. First of all, I want to apologize for connecting so late. I had to speak at a conference in Wales. Actually, I'm in Wales it's a conference of cultural rights, and it's another very interesting topic, and maybe even linked to, I thought of it later on, of time policies. Maybe we can think about it. So I want to thank all the participation of our first publication, and of course, congratulate all the people involved in the organization of the event. It's very, very important. We've seen a very dynamic work around the very important issue of work-life balance. And I see our European network is growing, and the exchange of good practices between the different countries is extremely interesting and important to work for a better quality of life for all the citizens. So I'm really glad to see we go on, and we can produce really, really concrete things. So let me just tell you about the next steps, maybe, of our network. So the next topic will be the issue of temporal policies and mobility. And I'm sure that we will have very rich exchanges around this issue, and certainly find new partners, I think, because the issue is at the center of a large number of cities, of regions, etc. And maybe we can see the slide that Marta was prepared. Yes, for the next steps, really concrete. So July 22, we start the compilation on good practices for time and mobility. I invite you to send, to look what's going on in your cities and your regions, to collect the good practices. And the 25 October 22, we have our General Assembly of the network in Barcelona. It's in face-to-face or in video conference with translation. I'm right, Marta? There's translation in English.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And then in March 23, we have the handover ceremony of the World Capital of Time policies. So that's for the global next steps of our network. And we have several steps, regional events. So during 22, we have the Barcelona World Capital of Time policies. I'm really glad for this title for you. I congratulate Barcelona. And we can say hello to our friends over the sea, not longer only in Europe. We have some partners in even in Latin America cities. There's an event the 18th and 22 September 22 in Latin America. There are federal cities. It's an online event, so we can maybe be there also. And in September 22, we have in France our Les Temporels, our conference, annually conference and assembly in Lille. It will be the 25-26, I think. And the topic is the impact of our life rhythms on the climate. So it's another big issue, big question, and maybe there can be links between our question of mobility and with this topic. So we have another slide to give you some information for to contact us or to collaborate. If you want to join, if there are another partners who will want to join our network. So you have several email contacts. If you want to become a member of our local and real-time government network, you can send us an email. So you have a lot of different languages. You can write in every language you want. I think we can find somebody to answer. So I want just to thank you, and we will see you as soon, June, July, to start our next topic for time policy and mobility. And I think that's all.
Okay,
Thank you,
Katja. Thank you. And I just want to finish with thanking all the attendees and participants and speakers in this event. And I want to remember you that the video which we made will be uploaded in the local and regional network web page, I think very soon, Marta. And we can all, once more see it and listen to what was discussed. So let me say thank you. And I think it's just the beginning of an exciting discussion, and all the best, and have a nice evening or morning or midday or wherever you are. And yes, let me say goodbye and thank you for this wonderful meeting, which I could join by this way. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.